face on Mars is a classic. Cydonia is a region on the planet Mars that has attracted both scientific and popular interest. The name originally referred to the albedo feature that was visible from Earth-bound telescopes. The area borders plains of Idalia Planitia and the Arabia Terra Highlands. The area includes the regions, Cydonia Mensae, an area of flat-topped mesa-like features, Cydoniacals, a region of small hills or knobs, and Cydonia Labyrinthus, a complex of intersecting valleys. As with other albedo features on Mars, the name Cydonia was drawn from classical antiquity, in this case from Kydonia, a historic polis, or city-state, on the island of Crete. Cydonia contains the face on Mars feature located about halfway between Arandis crater and Bamberg crater. First published August 4, 2015. A newer look at the Mars face. NASA wasn't going to let the face on Mars go without an explanation. The Mars Global Surveyor cleared things up for good in 2001 by taking a fresh image of the face. The newer, sharper, higher-resolution picture shows a much blobbier, less stark formation. In short, it's just a mesa and not an alien-carved religious site. Bone on Mars. Mark 1 up for the funny bone file. NASA's Curiosity rover sent a photo back to Earth in 2014 that showed a very odd rock shaped a bit like a femur bone from a human thigh. Scientists obligingly explained that the unusual shape was most likely the product of erosion by wind or water. If NASA ever did amazingly find human remains on Mars, scientists would want to shout it from the rooftops. Donald Trump's head rendered in rock. Donald Trump, the U.S. president, makes a cameo appearance on Mars in this image from NASA's Opportunity rover. It's an excellent example of pareidolia, the same psychological phenomenon that lets us see dragons or rabbits in clouds. The rocket bears a resemblance to the businessman, complete with overswept hair. Morse code? This view from NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, snapped in February 2016, shows some strange formations on the surface of the red planet. The dark raised areas are a series of dunes that look a lot like the dots and dashes of Morse code. Unfortunately, the code spells out gibberish. Planetary scientist Veronica Bray analyzed the dune image and told Gizmodo the code works out to read Naned ZB6TNNDI BCIBECISECE. Fish on Mars? There is a fish-shaped rock on Mars, but there is no actual fish there. NASA's Curiosity rover caught this unusual formation on camera and UFO and alien fans got excited about it. The rock's shape and the lighting at the time of the photo combined to create the fishy look. NASA has something to say about the possibility of fossilized bones and animals on Mars. Mars likely never had enough oxygen in its atmosphere and elsewhere to support more complex organisms. Thus, large fossils are not likely. Dust devil is in the details. A peculiar jet appears far back in this scenic Mars landscape photo taken by NASA's Opportunity rover in 2016. It's actually a dust devil, much like we experience here on Earth. Towering dust devils are weather hazards on Mars and they're something future human visitors will need to be prepared to handle. A wild jelly donut appears. It wasn't there and then it was. A jelly donut-shaped object appeared rather suddenly in a set of before and after images from NASA's Opportunity rover on Mars. Some people believed it to be an alien fungus, but NASA was having none of that nonsense. NASA finally solved the jelly donut mystery by announcing that the rock's sudden appearance was the result of the rover dislodging it by driving over it. Sadly, NASA has still not discovered snacks on Mars. Waffle-shaped island on Mars. The Mars jelly donut didn't work out, but NASA wasn't done with food-shaped formations on the red planet just yet. An image from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter from late 2014 showed a strange waffle-shaped island on the planet's surface. The 1.2-mile-wide feature is located in an area of lava flows. It's not evidence of waffle irons on Mars, but it might be the result of lava pushing the formation up from below. Shiny object on Mars surface. Everybody likes shiny things. We like them even more when they pop up seemingly out of context on faraway planets. That happened in 2012 when NASA's Curiosity rover spotted a bright, shiny object tucked into the dull Martian soil. For perspective, the entire image covers an area just 1.6 inches across. NASA scientists confirmed the tiny bright bit is simply part of the geology of Mars. Suspended spoon stretches out. Take a look at the center of this image from NASA's Curiosity rover. You might see a long-handled spoon stretching out over the landscape, casting a shadow below. Is this a sign that cooking is a popular hobby on Mars? Unfortunately, no. Mars doesn't have the same pull of gravity we have on Earth, so fragile formations like this one have a chance of holding up and not just crumbling down to the ground. Not an alien hunk of metal on Mars. Some Mars-watching space fans on Flickr enhanced an image captured by the Mars Curiosity in early 2013 to highlight what appears to be a hunk of metal just hanging out on the red planet's surface. The likely explanation is a lot less fun than imagining a race of metal forging aliens. The object is probably a piece of a meteorite or the result of strange lighting. It's definitely not an alien fertility effigy. A bright light on Mars horizon. NASA's Curiosity rover sent back a curious photo in 2014 showing a blip of light on the horizon of Mars. The image excited UFO fans, who speculated about the light source, wondering if it might be evidence of alien activity. NASA scientist Doug Ellison rained on the extraterrestrial parade with the explanation that the blip was likely caused by a cosmic ray hit, the result of high-energy particles flying through space. A piece of a Mars rover. The Mars Curiosity rover has been at the center of quite a few unusual object sightings on the red planet. A famous incident occurred in 2012 when the rover noticed a shiny object on the ground that didn't match its surroundings. Speculation ranged from jokes about Jimmy Hoffa's cufflink to it being an AOLCD. The explanation turned out to be pretty benign when NASA announced the object was a small plastic piece of the rover itself that had fallen off mini-meteorite. In October 2016, NASA's Curiosity rover spotted a weird little iron meteorite during its explorations around the base of Mount Sharp in the Gale crater on Mars. The rock would look small sitting in the palm of your hand, but the rover's close-up view shows the intricacies of the meteorite's surface. Researchers named the meteorite Egg Rock. A closer look at the shiny object. That weird shiny object spotted by NASA's Curiosity rover had an anticlimactic explanation. It was just a shred of plastic from the rover itself. This close-up image comes from the rover's ChemCam and helped NASA scientists determine the origin of the Martian interloper. NASA described it as likely benign, which should leave the door open just enough for us to image the presence of a human-hungry alien race hiding out on the red planet. Female statue on Mars? NASA's Spirit rover delivered an image in 2007 showing a view of craggy little rock formations across the surface of Mars. One dramatically shaded formation stood out in the form of what looked like a little walking humanoid, either that or Bigfoot. Popular UFO blog UFO Sightings Daily ran with speculation that the rock formation is a female figure likely made by aliens. The Planetary Society was quick to call the object an optical illusion and another excellent example of pareidolia, the tendency for our minds to assign familiar patterns to random shapes or sounds. Another woman on Mars. There's more than one woman-shaped rock on Mars. This image from the Mars Curiosity rover excited alien theorists earlier in 2015. The small, shadowy object inside the red circle does look a little bit like a statuette of a lady in a dress. All it takes is a strong imagination. Or not. It's really easy to pick out rocks or other things that look like something else in pictures like this. NASA Media Relations Specialist Guy Webster. Crab monster creeps on Mars. NASA's Mars Curiosity rover snapped a photo that could have blended in with 100 other Mars photos back in July 2015. However, This particular photo earned itself a measure of infamy, with a Facebook group enhanced a close-up of one tiny piece of the picture and unveiled what looked like a weird crab monster hiding out in the shadows. It could also pass as Cthulhu. Ultimately, the crab creature of Mars is just a fun interplay between light and shadow. It's still just a rock formation at heart. Not a Sasquatch skull. It's fun to imagine what aliens on Mars might look like if they were real. You might conjure up images of big heads and large, black eyes, or perhaps something with crazy tentacles and sharp teeth. UFO enthusiasts imagined a bigger, hairier version of alien life when they spotted what looked like a Sasquatch skull among the landscape debris on the red planet. The image comes from NASA's Curiosity rover from early 2016. Squint and you can imagine the random rock looking a bit like a skull with a round dome and a large eye socket. Is it really a Bigfoot skull? No. It's still just a rock, but hopefully it will inspire some fun sci-fi stories about the great Sasquatch of Mars. An ancient god's face. On the left is a cropped view of an image from the Mars Opportunity rover. On the right is a Neo-Assyrian attendant god statue from the British Museum. Notice a little resemblance? So did some UFO fans, who brought attention to the face-like rock found on the red planet. As with all Mars rocks that look like Earth objects, it's really a combination of human imagination and fortuitous light rather than a sign of an alien civilization with a penchant for carving sculptures. Remnants of a lander. The European Space Agency's ExoMars mission suffered a setback when its Schiaparelli lander crash-landed Mars in October 2016. NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter took this photo of the crash site to help ESA investigators work out what happened to the ill-fated lander. The large dark spot shows the impact site. Other highlighted areas show the front heat shield,